There's a peculiar silence that follows us when we realize people are speaking behind our backs, a silence that cuts deeper than words. It's not the gossip itself that stings, but the feeling of betrayal, of being misunderstood in a story we can't defend ourselves in. Throughout history, from the marble streets of ancient Rome to the noise of modern social media, people have wrestled with this same sting. And yet, there have always been those rare individuals who moved through such storms untouched, calm, composed, and almost untouchable. These were the Stoics. Stoic philosophy didn't just teach people how to survive criticism, it taught them how to transcend it. Figures like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus saw slander not as a wound, but as a mirror revealing more about the speaker than the subject. "If anyone speaks ill of you," said Epictetus, "consider whether he has truth on his side. If so, correct yourself. If not, laugh at him." The Stoics weren't indifferent, they were disciplined in their peace. They knew that the most powerful answer to gossip was a life lived with such integrity that even lies lost their power. So here's the question we must ask. How do we reach that level of inner steadiness today? How can we, in a world that thrives on opinions and whispers, build a Stoic shield strong enough to silence gossip, not with anger, but with quiet confidence? That's what we'll explore next, not how to fight back, but how to stand so firm that gossip simply falls away. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who values depth over drama, and that's exactly the kind of mind this channel was made for. So before we move on, take a moment to subscribe, like, and drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Do you think true peace comes from silence or confrontation? Your voice adds to the discussion, and who knows, your insight might be the spark someone else needs to hear today. Number 1. Being transparent and honest. There's a certain kind of freedom that comes from having nothing to hide. In a world where whispers spread faster than truth, the person who walks openly, without masks or hidden motives, becomes untouchable. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. To them, integrity was a shield stronger than any defense. When you're transparent about who you are, what you believe, and how you act, rumors lose their power. They bounce off like dull arrows against polished armor. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A simple rule, yet it carries the weight of unshakable self-respect. Imagine an old craftsman in a small village. Every day, he builds his furniture out in the open square, where everyone can see his work. People might criticize, they might gossip, but when they see his steady hands and honest craft, words fade into silence. This is how a Stoic lives, in the sunlight, not in the shadows. Transparency doesn't mean explaining yourself to everyone. It means your life is clear enough that it speaks for itself. Being honest isn't just about telling the truth, it's about living it. It's refusing to play the exhausting game of trying to manage others' opinions. When your intentions are clean and your actions align with your values, you develop what Seneca called tranquility of soul. You no longer fear what people say behind your back because there's nothing for them to uncover, no secret, no facade, no hidden version of you. So, the next time you hear whispers about yourself, don't rush to silence them. Instead, let your character, transparent, steady, and real, do the talking. The Stoics knew that when you live in truth, the noise behind you becomes nothing more than the faint hum of distant, powerless echoes. Number 2. Keeping your cool in crises. There's a moment in every storm when silence becomes your greatest weapon. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of composure, the kind that unsettles the gossiper more than any loud defense could. When people talk behind your back, they expect a reaction. Anger, outrage, maybe even revenge. But when you stay calm, collected, and even gracious, you take away the oxygen that feeds their fire. The Stoics believed that dignity is most visible in chaos, the ability to remain steady when everything around you trembles. As Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Yet in this case, your reaction isn't defense, it's poise. Imagine a scene from an old town square. A merchant accused of deceit stands quietly as voices rise against him. He doesn't shout or plead. Instead, he looks around calmly, nods once, and returns to his work. Days later, when the truth surfaces, his quiet confidence becomes the talk of the town, not the lies told about him. This isn't passivity, it's strength in its most refined form. People will always respect the one who keeps their center when others lose theirs. In modern life, crises come in digital form: group chats, social media whispers, and workplace rumors. The Stoic approach isn't to chase down every false word, but to embody stability. When your composure remains unshaken, you subtly rewrite the story others tell about you. A calm tone, an unbothered presence, a half smile. These are your modern shields. In a world addicted to drama, peace becomes power. And perhaps that's the ultimate Stoic lesson. True control lies not in silencing others, but in mastering yourself so completely that their words fade into background noise. The crisis may come, the gossip, the judgment, the misunderstanding, but when you remain calm, you remind everyone watching that storms are loudest just before they break, and that calm is not weakness, but command. Number 3. Avoiding over-showing off your successes. There's something magnetic about quiet power, the kind that doesn't need applause to feel real. In a world obsessed with showing, posting, and proving, modesty has become the rarest form of confidence. The Stoics knew this long before the age of social media. They believed that true strength doesn't shout, it whispers through calm consistency. When you constantly announce your victories, you don't just attract admiration, you attract envy, judgment, and whispers behind your back. Seneca once said, "He who praises himself always finds someone willing to believe him, and someone eager to resent him." In other words, too much display can turn triumph into tension. Imagine a craftsman in an ancient Roman marketplace, his work admired, his customers loyal. One day, a new artisan arrives, loudly declaring his superiority. The first man says nothing, only continues working. Weeks later, when people realize whose hands truly hold mastery, it's the quiet one they respect, not the loud one they remember. This story echoes a timeless truth: the louder the brag, the weaker the foundation. In modern times, showing off has simply gone digital. The new forum is Instagram, the new stage is LinkedIn, and the new gossip spreads in the form of screenshots and side comments. The Stoic approach isn't to suppress success, it's to ground it. Celebrate silently, share selectively, and let your results speak long after your words have faded. That balance of humility and quiet confidence protects you from unnecessary noise. When you stop flaunting and start embodying your success, you become untouchable in a subtle, elegant way. You move through the world like a mountain, still, grounded, unshaken. The Stoics didn't teach people to hide their light. They taught them to shine so steadily that even gossipers must squint to look. Real greatness, after all, doesn't need an announcement. It's felt in the silence that follows your presence. Number 4. Learning the art of listening. There's an old story about a wise man who entered a noisy tavern in Athens, filled with men arguing about politics, money, and the latest gossip. He sat quietly, never interrupting, never defending himself when someone mocked him. By the end of the evening, the same men who laughed at him were leaning in, lowering their voices, asking for his opinion. What changed? Nothing but his silence, a silence filled with attention. The Stoics understood this mysterious power. When you truly listen, not to reply but to understand, you unsettle the noise around you. You become a mirror in which others see themselves too clearly to keep pretending. Epictetus once said, "Nature gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we might listen twice as much as we speak." That wasn't just advice for humility, it was a strategy for strength. Those who listen deeply gather information others overlook. They catch the tremor in a voice, the insecurity behind a boast, the fear behind an insult. When people feel heard, they lose the urge to attack. When they feel ignored, they whisper. Listening, then, is not a passive act. It's a form of quiet dominance, a way of disarming hostility without a single argument. In the modern world, we're taught to talk, to post, to defend, to have an opinion. But few are trained to pause and absorb. The Stoics weren't men of endless debate, they were observers of human behavior. They believed that wisdom grows not from speaking, but from studying. Listening allows us to see beyond words, to detect patterns, to understand motives, to recognize that much of what's said behind our backs often comes from confusion rather than malice. When you develop this kind of awareness, gossip loses its venom. So, perhaps the greatest way to stop others from talking behind us isn't to demand respect or explain ourselves louder. It's to listen better, even to what's not being said. When you master the art of listening, you stop being part of the noise and become the quiet presence everyone senses but few can shake. The Stoics might remind us here, he who truly hears the world no longer fears what it says. Number 5. Reducing talk about sensitive issues. There's an old saying in the marketplace of Corinth, "Walls have ears, and those ears love to exaggerate." The Stoics understood this well, that the more one speaks of private or emotional matters, the more they feed invisible fires. Imagine a man who confides every irritation, every disappointment, every victory to anyone willing to listen. He might think he's sharing for relief, but in truth, he's planting seeds of rumor in every passing hand. The Stoics warned that not every truth must be spoken, and not every listener deserves our vulnerability. To speak less about what cuts deep is not cowardice, it's strategy. Seneca once wrote, "Speech is the mirror of the mind. When we reveal too much of our inner storms, we give others the very weapons that can be turned against us." The Stoic art lies not in building walls of cold silence, but in learning which parts of our lives belong to the public square, and which must remain within the temple of our own thoughts. In this sense, restraint becomes a kind of invisible armor. The wise man doesn't announce his wounds to the world. He tends to them quietly, letting time and discipline heal what noise would only worsen. In psychology, this wisdom echoes in what we now call emotional regulation. Those who overshare often do so to seek validation or connection, yet they end up surrounded by misunderstanding. Gossip rarely grows from truth. It thrives on fragments of overheard emotion. The Stoics, keen observers of human frailty, saw that the less you expose your raw feelings to casual company, the fewer cracks you leave open for others to misinterpret. Like a sculptor guarding his unfinished work, the Stoic protects what is still in the making, his thoughts, his plans, his fears. So, when the urge comes to explain, to vent, to set the record straight, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth giving away? Reducing talk about sensitive matters doesn't mean withdrawing from life. It means choosing peace over reaction, clarity over chaos. The Stoics would smile here and remind us, the tongue is soft, yet it can break bones. Use it sparingly and watch how silence begins to defend your name more powerfully than any argument ever could. If you've stayed with me until the end, it means you're someone who values growth over gossip. Someone who'd rather understand the power of silence than waste energy defending every rumor. That alone places you closer to the calm center the Stoics spoke of, the place where your peace no longer depends on others' chatter. Remember, the way we carry ourselves teaches the world how to treat us. So keep walking with quiet confidence, Let your composure speak louder than your words. And, as Marcus Aurelius once said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. Your silence, when chosen wisely, can become the strongest voice in any room.